It's July 2022 and we are at Starbase18 with the founders of this project, Janneke and Frank. And so this video is about an update on where they stand. And so to begin with, I wanted to ask you, why did you decide to move here?
You want to answer? Why did we decide to move here? Yeah, specifically to this location or to Portugal?
Both.
Both. Yeah, to start with Portugal, we were living in the northern part of the Netherlands. At one point in time, I drove back from work and I had something like, I want something else. I was a bit fed up of the dark winters in the Netherlands and I wanted to move to a more southern country. Portugal was not on the radar yet at that time. And so I came home and asked Janneke, or said to Janneke, I want to go. And then she was kind of shocked, I think.
Which was a real surprise. For what? I was pregnant at that time and it was really a roller coaster from, okay, you want to go? What? You mean? So, but then we looked into it and Portugal seemed like the really good choice because it's warmer here and it's the people are nice. It's also good to find some land here which is affordable.
But just came back to Portugal actually, like you said. So also the culture is very much in line with what we're used to. More introverts when you compare it to Spain, for example, or Italy for that matter. And we both have a shared interest in the mountains, so we really wanted to go to the mountains.
Yes. Yeah, so this land specifically, we really wanted to make sure to have water available or running water. That would be ideal, but at this moment we have here 8 wells on the property, which is also, well, very good. And of course we still need to figure out if this is enough for us or not and what our plans are for the future, if that's enough.
And how they behave during the summer, which is now a very good test obviously with the current drought. So if they can keep up with this drought, then we're we're a little bit more assured that that it's sustainable in that matter to have water from that. We wanted also a property which was remote but not too remote, and also did not depend on very rough exits, you know. There are a lot of properties, like dirt roads with rocks and stuff, because things can become very ugly very quickly and it's very hard to predict where the fire will go through. So like for example in 2017 over 90 people died during the fires just because they were trapped when they were trying to flee the premises. Yeah.
Yeah, so here we have at least 2 exits for cars, and 2 more for just by foot.
Yeah, every direction we can flee to. So that's and it's also important thing when choosing your property is where does the fire brigade is able to get the water from. So this property is located maybe 10 minutes away from the barrage, from the Stuwmeer, from the what is it?
It's a big lake for water protection as well.
No.
More specific, we're in the Guarda area in the Serra da Estrela mountains and we have 4.5 hectares of flat land. So here we had a friend farmer who sowed in some 2 hectares of our property, which we collaborate with and exchanged manure and wood. So that was a really good deal. So we need to figure out what we ourselves want to do with the land. We thought about, replanting it with forest or have some animals as well. That's still something on the go. And also some houses. So that brings us maybe to the next topic.
Back in late 21, September, we quickly started with having interns at the property, and we already had a large network of VAT schools, vocational education schools in the Netherlands, that I worked with before. I I was a teacher back in the Netherlands, and we wanted to be a sort of an extension of schools to be able for students to work on sustainable projects on this location. But we quickly realized that the impact of having students within your own house is very big, and that the students of this day and age are very used to having a very well laid out trajectory that they have to do, and that it's very clear what they have to do and when it's good and when it's bad and when it's good enough or not. And the students that arrived here had difficulty to adapt to our way of teaching, which is more watch and learn, see what you want to learn yourself instead of what's being pushed to you. And we realized that it's quite a big leap to get that bridged in the current state that we're right now, because we're in a constructing phase ourselves. So we have to reinvent ourselves, we have to reinvent the property. We divided in lots of projects. So we decided to switch focus in that sense a bit. We still are very into learning by doing and sharing what we are doing, because we also want to inspire others to reconsider their own lives, and how the trajectory looks like to become more self-sustaining, because that's our main objective, to become less reliant on traditional sources like power grid, water grid, food delivery and that stuff. Focus on how we are going to make this also financially sustainable. And that's why we focus now more on the setting up the tiny eco-village, where we invite guests, and these guests can just become here as a sort of a holiday experience. They can come here as a holiday experience, but also learn on what we are doing and on the several projects that we are doing. Or they can come here with already having in mind that they also might take the leap towards the countryside themselves, and then we want to help them, to guide them on how to do that, because we all know that, we know from experience that it takes it takes guts to do so, but also a lot of knowledge and experience to do so. If you're from the city, for example, and you're used to that, you can hire people for everything, and you know. So it takes a very different skill sets to survive on the countryside, basically. Just on how to maintain and set up a project like this, but also on regulations. How do you settle yourself in such a country? How you do your network? How you learn the language, etc., etc. There are a lot of aspects that are part of that.
Yeah, so we have, for example, the food forest and the no-dig market garden. Almost immediately we wanted to set up the no-dig market garden to have food security for ourselves, but also for guests.
And it takes time to develop, so it's not that first year you have.
Exactly. So then we were searching for how, well, we know how to set it up, but then also to provide all the materials from local sources, for example the wood chips or the compost or anything else. We found it very challenging to find these materials here in the area, so we thought, well, we might make our own wood chips, we might use other biomass materials which we find on the land. So that we managed. I'm really glad we did. So also our compost we made ourselves to build the no-dig beds. So that's a real challenge, I think, for us, that we managed that.
Yeah, and a very big difference when compared to the Netherlands, where we come from, because these, for example, wood chips are easily available, especially in autumn, from the municipalities who collect all that, and you can just get it for free or for a few euros. And here it's not available. And also compost. So yeah, like I said, it takes time to set it up and to get things running. So a compost bin also takes time to be filled, but also to be composted, and so that you can use it actually. And we had a lot of help from friends in the area, also a Dutch couple who has horses, and we asked them if we could use their horse manure also to enrich our beds, basically.
Yeah.
Very stressful. We knew about them, of course, especially the fires of 2017. Last winter was very dry, although this part was not the driest of Portugal, but still. And currently there are a lot of fires going on. Sometimes we are able to smell them, and especially, well, in the area there have been a couple of ones. For 4 days in a row we saw smoke on the horizon, 2 different directions. So then during the winter we did do a lot of cutting of the broom, which is also mandatory, by the way. It's super flammable, so during the winter we tested how flammable, and it's like burning diesel or even gasoline. Maybe it's burning like crazy. So we did do a lot of cutting of that, and now we came about a bit of in a tight corner, so to speak, because we, like Janneke already told, we have a cooperation with a local farmer, which is who is very helpful, but was not able to cut the grass in time before the engine lockdown. So by now it's so combustible everywhere that it's not anymore, and that's not allowed anymore to use machines. So yeah, that's quite a catch-22. So you're not allowed to cut the grass anymore, and by this, in the same moment, the grass is also a huge fire hazard. So that causes a lot of headaches. So what we're currently doing is cutting fire corridors, basically. So cleaning strips, so that when fire would arrive, that it's not moving too quickly to the house, which can work as long as it's not too windy. If it's too windy, then these type of measurements don't have that much influence, unfortunately. And we did make an investment in buying additional IBC tanks, so 1,000 liter tanks, which you can do some B-roll on that, which you can see on the property, and we are filling. We also added an additional pump on petrol, so not reliant on anything else. So yeah, we're putting in place what we can, but it's a concern, especially because there's no rain on the horizon yet for the foreseeable forecast. So for the next 10 days or so, there's nothing predicted. Luckily, the temperatures are decreasing a little bit, especially during the night. So that's nice, because now even during the night it's 25 degrees or so. As a advice for newcomers here, make sure you have that in place during the winter already. And we, like I said, we did do a lot of work on that part, but still I do consider it not to be enough right now to be relaxed at home. Yeah, key elements are indeed having a plan, also having an evacuation plan. So it can be that things escalate very quickly. So simple things: have your car already facing outwards so that you can drive away when you have to, that you have a bag with all your important stuff, also with your important documents that you have, that you instruct your kids what to do when things happen, that you have flashlights with you, because it's very likely that the power will cut out. So also don't depend on tap water, for example, that relies on electricity for the pump, because that won't work anymore. That's why we have the gasoline pump engines. Although not sustainable, but at least you know that they don't rely on electricity. Yeah, so you should not depend on electricity for that.
Yeah. And also it's good that multiple people know how it works.
Yeah.
And also do a test run.
Right, do a test run, but also be very aware that, okay, these tanks are 1,000 liter, which sounds like a lot, but when the petrol engine pump starts, it will take 7 to 10 minutes for it to empty. So you have to have it finished. The fire has to be extinguished within that time. So it sounds like a lot, and you have to make sure that you know how to move the equipment around, that you are able to reach, because we also have these wells, which is nice, but they're also very deep, and the reach of a pump is limited. So for our pump, for example, it's 7-8 meters, so beyond that it's not able to pump it up, so then you can have water, but if it's too deep, for example, then there's no use for it. So test with every well, moving around, test how you connect the hoses, experience that a hose is very heavy when it's filled with water, for example, is something to be aware of. Yeah, test, dry run, visualize in your head what could happen. Also, during the winter we removed a lot of the dead wood from the trees, but I still saw when walking around there are trees who have additional dead wood within the trees, which of course ignites super quickly. Remove that already, not with a chainsaw because that's not allowed anymore. Just, and be aware of everything that you do that can cause sparks. So even when digging the trenches, with just a shovel already can cause a spark and lighten everything.
Yeah, because the soil is already very hot with this heat wave. So I think even 50 or 60 degrees is measured. So it just needs a little spark to ignite. So that's very, well, something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and be aware of the wind. Where does the wind come from? And be aware that even if we have these corridors, when it's windy, sparks will fly just over them. So that's hopeless. So for your experience, the wind is fine because it doesn't feel as hot. But for fire precautions, wind can be very deadly. And it can also trap you. So be aware of what are the different out exits.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, we have a couple of projects which also volunteers can help. So it's on the website, or you can contact us by email.
Just frank@starbase18.com or janneke@starbase18.com, doesn't matter. And we always do video intakes up front to see if it's a fit and if it's if the expectations are right. Because people have the tendency to fill in the picture themselves, and then we can check if it's in line with what's actually here.
Thank you.